What would happen if I drank this water? Today, drinking water from a public river might be cause for hesitation. But over 180 years ago, they wouldn't have given it a second thought. What if this water was the water running into the White House?
It's February 20th, 1862. There's a killer in the White House, and before the night is over, young Willie Lincoln will succumb to it. The new federal city was supposed to be a shining beacon of democracy and freedom. Instead, it was an overgrown swamp with primitive roads and almost no infrastructure. The lack of a sewer system caused early residents to leave their so-called night soil in the streets. It would then be collected and deposited in a sparsely populated section of the city. The White House didn't have running water until 1833, when it was piped in from a spring 4 blocks northeast of the White House. President Andrew Jackson was the first resident in the White House to take advantage of this new running water. No concern was given to the pipes, the water, its source, or even the bacteria-filled night soil depository that was located uphill less than a mile away from the spring. Complicating matters was the city canal. Soon after its opening in 1815, it quickly became nothing more than an open sewer, with reports of citizens dumping raw waste and animal carcasses. The threat from the canal was compounded by the Potomac River, which, up until the late 19th century, stretched across the National Mall and reached the city canal. All of these factors presented a larger danger than anyone at the time would realize. In March of 1844, President William Henry Harrison delivered his infamous inaugural address, a 2-hour speech made in cold and rainy conditions that many at the time believed caused the untimely death the following month. But a recent study points to a different source of the president's demise. Harrison may have been killed by the running water in the White House. The symptoms Harrison displayed were consistent with that of enteric fever and a gastrointestinal infection which could have been brought on by contaminated water. Only 8 years later, James K. Polk lay in a bed in Nashville, Tennessee, his body rocked by diarrhea, vomiting, and severe dehydration. 3 months earlier, Polk had finished up his only term as President of the United States. The gastrointestinal issues that haunted Harrison in his final days reappear in Polk shortly after Polk left the White House. While Polk made it out of the White House before he succumbed, his immediate successor did not. Just a year and a half after taking office, President Zachary Taylor became ill. Within an hour of eating cherries and drinking large amounts of iced milk and water, Taylor suffered vomiting, diarrhea, and other symptoms that are associated with waterborne illnesses and died 5 days later. Back at the White House, little progress was made on the sourcing and sanitation of running water. In 1860, President James Buchanan ordered running river water to be pumped to the second floor of the White House for bathing. Luckily for Buchanan, that work was not completed until his successor and his family moved into the White House. Young Willie Lincoln was strong, exuberant, and full of life. Unfortunately, he, like 3 presidents before him, was likely not strong enough to overcome decades of mismanagement with the White House plumbing system. At the time he fell ill, water from the tainted spring was still being used in the White House. The open and festering city canal was still running just 1 block south. Willie and his younger brother would often climb to the roof of the White House and look out on Union soldiers who were camped along the Potomac River just a few blocks away. That very same water was being piped upstairs to the second floor of the White House, and young Willie was likely bathing in it frequently. He was unaware of the microscopic bacteria that was entering his body. As with the deaths of Presidents William Henry Harrison, James K. Polk, and Zachary Taylor, this was likely his silent killer.
Just like many major American cities, the White House has taken pains to improve its water supply. But there's still work to be done. Just take a look at the recent atrocity in Flint, Michigan. So the next time you reach for a glass of water, take a moment to think about people throughout history, and even in modern times, who took clean water for granted.